Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to the Toronto Raptors 113-102 win against the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, the Toronto Raptors it's been a really exciting stretch for Toronto Raptors basketball. I know we had a tough loss against Denver that last game, but it was still a neck-and-neck game. We just beat the Warriors, and tonight, the whole time I was on the edge of my seat watching this game, Toronto came out and played today. There's a lot we have to get into, and we're just going to dive straight into it with our main guy, our MVP, Kawhi Leonard. 36 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 steals from Kawhi Leonard tonight. He had a ridiculous game, playing both ends of the floor. We'll talk about his offense first because he was getting bucket after bucket, getting to the rim. Kawhi just plays so efficiently. 13 of 24 from the field, 5 of 6 from 3. Tonight, the Toronto Raptors really struggled from behind the three-point line. We'll get into that after, but Kawhi, 5 of 6 from threes. That was so desperately needed by our team, as no one else could shoot it from deep. So Kawhi Leonard gave us what we needed tonight. He just does it on a consistent basis. We play not necessarily bad teams, but teams where we can really handle them without Kawhi going off. He doesn't really force the issue. He's not really going after 25-plus points every night. But when we have a big game, when it's big game hunting, Kawhi Leonard seems to show up every time. Every time we need a big game out of Kawhi, we're playing against a top-tier team in the league, which the Sixers are. Kawhi showed up tonight, and my God, was he just all-around fantastic. I mentioned he was getting buckets, and on the defensive end, Jimmy Butler had a really good game, but Kawhi wasn't on him the whole night. But when we needed stops at the end of the final stretch of this game, because Jimmy Butler is a guy that loves to kill the Toronto Raptors, especially in the clutch. That was when Kawhi locked in on him, because we don't want Kawhi to be worn out. We don't want him chasing Jimmy Butler around the court the whole game. But at the end stretch, when he was shutting down Jimmy Butler, it was such a great sight to see. Kawhi getting steal after 5 steals for Kawhi. I know steals aren't a measure of defensive impact, but they're definitely a part of it. And Kyle Lowry with 3 steals too. Our defense as a whole was ridiculous tonight. At the first half, it was a bit, the Sixers were kind of up, had control of the game during the first half. It was really the second quarter, the third quarter, where we really amped up our defense. And from that point on, it was fascinating to see. The defensive talent that we have on this roster, led by 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, Kawhi Leonard, it's ridiculous. Kyle Lowry hasn't been shooting the greatest, and I'd like for him to get more buckets, but we'll get into Kyle after. But defensively and facilitating-wise, he's been all there for the Toronto Raptors, taking charges, doing all that sort of stuff. Danny Green, I love Danny Green's game. Tonight, people say he struggled. He struggled with his shot. Everyone struggled with their shot tonight. But Danny Green always gives it to you on the defensive end, no matter what's happening. The thing about Danny Green, his game doesn't change whether the shots are going in or they're not going in. We see with CJ Miles, he gets a lot more hyped up, he gets more into it, more impactful when his shots are going down. And even other three-point shooters throughout the league. Danny Green plays the exact same way no matter what's happening. And he always shoots his shots with full confidence. He's 1 for 6 tonight, but he hit one really nice one when the Raptors were going on a run. I believe it was in the fourth quarter, I want to say. But the Raptors were making a run, and we were missing a few shots. But Danny Green took a shot from the corner, full confidence, and all of his shots he takes with full confidence, and he never has bad misses. I just love the way he plays. For a guy that's on the court to shoot threes and play defense, we don't want him losing confidence. And even on tough nights like this, he didn't lose confidence, and he kept playing defense. So shout out to Danny Green. I know I bet some people will be trashing on him because the stats aren't there. I really liked what I saw from him tonight. And Pascal Siakam, the same thing. Only 6 points tonight for him. Missed a few shots that he usually makes, but 8 rebounds, 6 assists, all-around game from Pascal tonight as well. He's running the floor on a consistent basis, handing off. The Raptors' cuts, the Raptors' offense has really come full form the last 10 or so games. They're starting to drive, but at the beginning of the year, it was mostly just a drive and kick set, where they kicked it out to Kawhi, really focused on Kawhi running a few ISOs and Kyle Lowry running a few ISOs, and then kind of stagnated around the three-point line. But ever since the past 10 games or so, after that 3-game losing streak, I really noticed they've been running these cuts off all of our players. We drive in, and then the back cuts that we've been making have just been awesome, and that's only going to get better as the season goes along. So shout out to Nick Nurse for crafting that offense, and all the guys for the basketball IQ for making those cuts. But the position where we really dominated tonight was the center position. And we'll start with the starter, Serge Ibaka. The first half came out, 18 points, 8 rebounds. He did most of his damage in the first half, and played ridiculously well. Serge Ibaka has been focused on staying in the paint, getting his shots on the inside and going at players, being aggressive defensively and offensively. And he looks like the gritty guy that he was in Oklahoma City, and he's doing it against the top tier teams. He's not just feasting on the bad teams, he's doing it on the top tier teams. We talk about Serge every pod. Imagine saying last season that Serge Ibaka has been one of our most consistent players this season. That's a thought. That's kind of a trip right there, but it's been the reality. Serge Ibaka, got to give him credit. He's been awesome this season. 18 points and 8 rebounds tonight against Joel Embiid. Ridiculously good. And, he's been getting some flack the past few games. I said he's going to bounce back. People are trying. Whenever Jonas has a few bad games, everyone wants to trade him. We got to stop being crazy reactionary like that. Jonas Valanciunas tonight in 18 minutes, 26 points. 8 rebounds on 9 of 13 from the field. Those are ridiculous stats. And doing this against a top, an MVP candidate, one of the best defensive centers in the NBA, and Joel Embiid, Jonas Valanciunas got it. We got to stop bagging on the guy when he has a few bad games. And this is what I'm saying. We got to give Jonas the ball. We got to give him some touches and reward him for when he's playing well. I mentioned it a couple games ago. I know he's not the greatest on the defensive end, especially in the pick and rolls and all that. But when he's engaged, when he gets touches, when he's motivated and ready to go, this is what he can do. I'm not saying he's going to score 26 points in 18 minutes every night, but he can be a threat down low. He can be a motivating factor. Jonas Valanciunas just played an awesome game tonight, and I'd hate to see him get lost in the shuffle. He's an easy guy to bag on just because he's not a prototypical current NBA guy, but this is his value. And the biggest issue with the Toronto Raptors all season has been defensive rebounding. And I think it's unquestionable that Jonas Valanciunas is our best defensive rebounder, unless you could probably make an argument for Greg Monroe, but he's a much worse defender than Jonas, despite Jonas's flaws. And Greg Monroe fouls a lot on the defensive end, so he's still a great NBA player. I'm going to get into Greg Monroe after. But Jonas, we got to give the guy some credit. Got to stop bagging on when he has a bad game or two. The Raptors are going to figure it out. The Toronto Raptors are a phenomenal squad. The bench mob, I said they needed to come back tonight. We're going to talk about them after. But, I'm really, really happy with how this game turned out. I'm happy Jonas kind of broke out of this slump. Hopefully he'll continue it to next game. I mentioned it, Greg Monroe got 6 minutes there in the first half. Came in, ready to go, came off the bench, 4 points, 4 rebounds. I was really impressed as to the fact he was ready to come in and didn't look lost. Most cases when players have been buried in the bench most of the year and they come to a big game, they probably get more hyped for games where we're playing the Hawks or something because they think they got a chance of getting in. Greg Monroe came out tonight against a top seed in the Eastern Conference and was ready to go, ready to rock, played well against Joel Embiid. And the Toronto Raptors centers always play well against Joel Embiid, in my opinion. There's been a couple games where he's lit us up, but Joel Embiid overall really struggles against our team. So that's going to benefit us moving forward. But yeah, shout out to Greg Monroe, and I want to talk about the bench mob now. Okay? Because last podcast I mentioned how we needed the mob to come back. The bench mob was such an integral part of our team. Obviously we don't want to rely on them like we did last season. We haven't been, and we've been successful without them. Without the mobness, without the top bench in the NBA. But the Toronto Raptors, when the bench is cooking, when the bench is solid, we don't need to have the best bench in the league, but the bench is solid and is at least outplaying the other team, it's over. Our starting lineup is ridiculous all season, and it's been the bench that's really struggled. And in the first half, we saw it. The starting lineup competed toe-to-toe to start the game with the Sixers. The bench came in. Sixers kind of went on a little run. And, they kind of had control in that first half. And the second half was when we really saw what the bench could do. And in my opinion, it's got to go to Freddie. It's got to go. The bench goes as Fred VanVleet goes. I know Jonas came off the bench and was ridiculous, but Fred VanVleet stopped making dumb decisions in the second half. And that's what we got to, that's the reality of it. Fred struggled this season with decision making. And he hit a shot, and he hit a couple shots in the second half, was more confident, more decisive with his dribbles and all that. I know he didn't have the greatest stat line, but he's doing more Fred VanVleet things than he has been this season. You look at the box score and you think he had a trash game. In the first half, he was pretty trash. I'm not gonna bail him out there. But in the second half, he was coming off pick and rolls, looking around for people. I know he only had 1 assist, but he was playing like the Fred VanVleet of old, and regardless of the stats he gets, if he just plays with that good decision-making, I don't care if he misses every shot. Fred's most valuable asset last year was his decision-making, leadership, and getting the most out of his teammates. Whether he scores 20 points, 0 points, all that sort of stuff, when he's doing that, that's when the bench mob is at its best. He was doing that in the second half tonight, and we saw the Raptors. It was tied going in the fourth quarter, and they went on a huge run with the bench. And, Jonas led the scoring way with that, but Fred VanVleet is the leader of that unit. And, another thing I also want to point out about the bench mob. Usually, so the past, I want to say 7-10 games, Nick Nurse has been running Kawhi Leonard with the bench to start the fourth quarter. And it's been an interesting rotation. It hasn't really worked out the best. It hasn't been bad at all, but obviously we aren't getting the optimum bench mob that we want. And tonight, he switched it up a little bit, and he ran Pascal Siakam with the bench mob. Now, when I saw that, I was hyped. Maybe I've missed it in other games. It was the first time I've seen it this year, and it looked like the bench mob last season. They're playing with a high, fast pace. They got Jonas moving around the court quickly. Maybe that's a part of it too. Fred VanVleet, maybe he needs a guy like Pascal to just get the energy going. And yeah, so I really like the fact that they started the fourth quarter with Pascal Siakam with the bench, and hopefully it's something they keep running going forward, because the bench looked rejuvenated that second half. And I think Pascal plus the bench is just something that it gave me flashbacks of last season, which I love. I'm not saying that we need to have the best bench in the NBA again this season, but if we want to be that championship team, as we don't, have 4 and 5 All-Stars like the Warriors, or even 3 for sure lock-in All-Stars like the Sixers do, right? We need our role players to really step up, and tonight they did. We shouldn't have to rely on our bench players, but we should expect consistent contributions out of them. Not a reliance, but expect it, because last year we were reliant on the bench, and that's why in the playoffs we flamed out, right? But if we can expect consistent contributions from at least some of the bench players, we'll be fine. We'll be perfectly fine, and I really liked what I saw tonight. The player on the bench that I was a bit disappointed with, I think that's the word I'll use, is OG. He played decent defense. It wasn't some OG clamp defense that we're used to, but really isn't confident in his jump shot right now. He's in a slump. He had a few games there before this slump. People are saying we should trade OG in trade talks. I think that's ridiculous. He's had 3 or 4 bad games. That's just some overreactionary fans and all that, but OG had some great games before the stretch of duds, and I'm sure he'll get it back. I think OG just needs to go to the rim a bit more, use his body, because he came back this season with an improved handle. That's something that's definitely been noticeable to watch. He's not as kind of out of control of sorts as he's been in past years, but I think if he gets the rim, gets some shots going, that will be key for OG to get back on track. He just needs to get his confidence there. And I know there's a lot of stuff going on with OG. I say it pretty well every pod. We can't, and he's also only 21, I'm pretty sure. OG's only a 21-year-old guy. Obviously, there's going to be ups and downs with young players. He's our youngest guy on the team. OG will be fine. But, he was a bit disappointing tonight. Airballed a few shots. When you're airballing shots, your confidence is gone. I guess OG either makes the shots or airballs it. That's what OG's threes are. But, OG will bounce back. I love OG as a player. CJ Miles got to hit some shots as well. It's going to be interesting to see who gets those backup wing minutes when Norm comes back, because he had a solid start to the season. Obviously, he's inconsistent as well. But regardless, the Toronto Raptors had a phenomenal game today against the Sixers. We're going to swing it straight into the segments. And tonight, the Kawhi you do him like that play of the day. It's going to my boy JV. It's going to Big Science out there. Posterizing Joel Embiid tonight. It was we were going on that run with the bench at the fourth quarter, and Jonas came down. It was a handoff from CJ, and Jonas threw it down over the top center in the Eastern Conference, said, get in my poster. That's what he said to Joel Embiid. So that was a very exciting play. There's some great exciting dunks tonight. Bunch that could be the Kawhi Doom like that, but it's got to go to Big Science tonight. But not all plays could be the Kawhi Doom like that play of the day. And some just make you say, oh, geez. And tonight, the OG's play of the day, it's going to Greg Monroe. He got in the game, played well. He got a steal at one point. He was dribbling the ball up the court. We got to see some point Greg Monroe tonight, dribbling the ball up the court. Got an and one. He was out of control, got fouled, and then the ball got blocked. Joel Embiid hit it off the backboard. It ended up being goaltending, so it counted as an and one. Point Greg Monroe ended up with him on the floor. It was just a weird possession. I don't have the film for it, but If you remember that play, it was definitely made me say, oh, geez, watching the game. And finally, the DeMarre Carroll Gold Star Award. It's going to the Raptors 3-point shooting. It's crazy how we won this game with our 3-point shooting just being that abysmal. Aside from Kawhi Leonard, Serge Ibaka went 0 for 1, Lowry went 1 for 7, Danny Green went 1 for 6, OG went 0 for 3, CJ 0 for 1, Jonas 0 for 1, Fred 1 for 3, and DeLon 0 for 1. That's some pretty bad shooting splits, but came out here and got a win against a top-seeded Eastern Conference team with that bad of shooting. So things are looking good in Raptorland. We had that ESPN special. There's a bunch of news coming out on that. I'm sorry, and for people that haven't listened, I'm trying to get as many videos out as I can. I'm in exam season right now, but there's a lot of news that have come out. Obviously, Kyle Lowry talking about his relationship with Masai. Serge Ibaka eating crickets in his protein shakes. All that cool stuff. I'm going to try and make some segment videos, but if I can't, I'm sorry for the inconsistent uploads. I'm going to keep trying to do the game reactions and all that, but busy time of year for me, especially with Riker in Europe. But December 21st, we're going to be back to full-time, consistent content and game reactions, news reactions, and we appreciate all the DMs you send the Raptors Digest on Instagram. That's key. And I know we've gotten a bunch of segment requests, so I'm going to try and get those out as soon as possible, and if not, I'm going to get them out as soon as this exam season's over. So we really appreciate all you guys. We have a shout out to Yeeson99. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Shout out to you, my guy. And anyways, you're the best for making this far. Really great game from the Toronto Raptors tonight. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. You're the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.